This week we have moved into Gebo, where we will stay until the 13th of October. When we are working with Gebo in season, we have this experience of exploring how we're in relationship, period, with the world around us, with other humans, with ideologies, with ourselves. We always hear people talk about Gebo in terms of partnership, which seems to get relegated to romantic, even though that's very specific and not necessarily accurate. And we're greeted with these expressions like something for something, a gift for a gift. And it still somehow manages to get reduced to this capitalist, sort of robotic perspective that is with pressure, with expectation, and stress, frankly. What I want to come back to when we sit with Gebo is what makes it animistic. What is animistic about Gebo? This is the rune where we really start to tap into a sense of belonging and the understanding that when we combine our agency with someone else, truly amazing things happen, and it's not an accident. It's not a fluke. It's not a side effect. That's the way our agency works. That's the way our relationality works. And we're supposed to be able to experience ourselves, other beings, and the world around us within that container of relationality. What I think stands out about Gebo is this idea of the exchange of a gift. And that brings to mind everything that we can possibly hold around gift giving, gift receiving, gratitude, the gift itself, how it feels to be the giver, how it feels to be the receiver. All of this creates relationship, and it's that relationship that creates our sense of belonging, all of that. Like the gift is still part of that. And I find that really lovely and an aspect of Gebo that we talk about from a gift and gratitude standpoint, but we don't really dive deeply into the animistic relationship of Gebo. I think Gebo is particularly standing out to me right now in light of all of the upheaval just everywhere and how challenging it might be to tap into a sense of belonging. And given the conversation that we've had through this season with the runes around truth and how our body really is the first, I don't know what word I want to use. Our body really is the first thing that we greet in terms of truth. It's what we present first without even realizing that we are. It's what we greet in other people without necessarily realizing that the body is the carrier of truth. And I wonder what Gebo holds for us when we bring that together, when we bring that experience of body as truth into someone else's experience of body as truth. I think it could go really wonderfully, and I think it, given the climate that we're in politically, pretty much worldwide at this point, I think that it can go really challengingly also. The framing rune that we're working with this week is Mannaz reversed, which we've encountered several times. I would say at least twice within the last couple of months. And what I find telling about the pairing of this rune with Gebo is it feels more deceptive than when we've had it before. I know when we've had it before, we've recently talked about it as like maybe not being believed with our truth, maybe not finding the social group that we really want to be in support of our group. This one feels a little bit more shadowy than that, and not entirely sure why, but I'm feeling this one is a little bit more about deception, that the partnership isn't maybe what we think it is, or our place in relationality isn't what we think it is. And there's lots of direction to go with that. I could spend all day on how that could possibly take shape, but I feel like it's an expression of trusting ourselves in relationship. I mean, we're in relationship all the time. And the question, the thing I say when I'm teaching all the time is, the question is, are we aware of that fact? Are we aware of how we're in relationship? And this is even deeper than that. This is along the lines of, are we being honest with ourselves about what this relationship is bringing us, about whether we should be in this relationship, about whether we're being honest in the relationship. So there's a shadow component to this that I feel like needs to be checked over the next week. The direction that we're working with is curiously east. There's a lot of turmoil. Well, and I never know where to put these guys. There's a lot of turmoil happening in the east of the United States right now. A lot of recovery happening. Whenever we have east come up, for me that is right, as in RIGHT, in how I stand in opening my cosmology, how I invoke its presence here. And so east is to my right. It is Austri in Old Norse. For me, it indicates water. It indicates flow, specifically ocean. And ocean was really harsh over the last week. It's the impact of that harshness is going to be felt for a long time along the East Coast. It's also telling that all of life emerged from the ocean, and all of life goes back to the ocean. That is ultimately the cradle of home for us. And the questions around what home means to us in life as we are emerging from it, what ocean means in death, potentially, as we return with all water to the ocean. Also significant for me with the direction of east is dreaming. It is the direction of where we can best apply our most alchemical agency with the natural raw forces of magic, of dreaming, and be able to stay attentive to that process of what gets created out of that. In that respect, I feel like East is rich for us this week, even though for a lot of us it's probably feeling kind of raw. It's a rich direction to look to our dreaming, maybe literally, what have we been dreaming? What are we dreaming this week? And what is the action that's being asked of us to take by that dreaming? What things can we do in our lives that ground that dreaming, either so that we more clearly understand it, so that we can do what it's asking us to do, so that we can not do what it's asking us to do? I think there's a lot of rich territory in working with East in how we approach our dreaming and our agency this week. The element that we're working with this week is flesh. And where to put this? Okay. Flesh is the boundary between us and everything. It is what allows us to be more than just a collective of a bunch of systems. It's what separates us from other things. It's what helps us be discreet. And it's rigid and firm and yet porous at the same time. It's the surface of our protection. It provides our physical appearance. It's what makes us whole. Flesh is the pinnacle thing about being in form, because the physics and mysteries of flesh are what allow us to focus our agency. We can't get things done in this kind of science without form. And that's what makes us so desirable to the spirit world. That's what makes form so desirable to the spirit world. I always have people asking, why do all these different traditions say that souls want to come here so badly when it's so difficult? And that is why. Was it always that difficult? I don't think so. But it's not always easy. I don't think it's ever truly easy to be here. And yet, what makes it so challenging, for the most part, at least at this point in existence, are the human systems. But the spirit realm can't accomplish here what we can because of our agency. And flesh is what the absolute binding oath of being in form is. And so this week I feel like we're being asked to pay close attention to that. What does it really mean for us to be in form? What does it feel like? Are we happy about what it feels like to be in form? And if we're not, how is that affecting our relationship with body? Which means, how is it affecting our relationship with our truth? The season that we're working with this week is autumn, which again is really on point for the Northern Hemisphere. Season is the holder of our best options in terms of like what resources we can best access right now, and it indicates what our ecosystem needs for us. It's our big clock, essentially. And with autumn, we're moving closer to coolness. We're moving closer to the dark time. I know I say this every autumn in the runic cycle, but where I live, hurricanes are what bring the change from summer to autumn. It did not used to be that way, but that's the way it is now. The temperature doesn't really consistently start to trend downward until we've had the first really big hurricane. So autumn it is. We're moving closer to the dark time, and this experience of harvest allows us to enjoy the closure of summer. It allows us to pay attention to what we need to put aside for winter and for planting next year. And it also gives us preparatory time for the wild hunt, which we know is coming closer to Yule. What I mean by that is what we need to death walk, what we're truly done with, not what we just hope we're done with, what we'd like to be done with, but what we're done with internally, externally, relationships, actual loved ones that we have to let go of, maybe in form, maybe loved ones who've passed on. This is that culling time. And I think it can be kind of challenging to do that, especially now. We have enormous asks of us in American culture for this autumn. The helping spirit with us this week, curiously, is death. And I sat with this for a little while because most of the time death doesn't come out this time of year unless it's coming with the whole array of the wild hunt, which I'm sure will start soon enough. But it wasn't. It was very specific that it was only the spirit of death. And I think what we need to be mindful of around death this week is that it is a force in the formed realm. It's a Midgard force, but it has roots in the beyond. And it's among us all the time, representing regeneration of one force into another, and that makes it the master of alchemy. If any force can foster how we use our time here, how we hold our agency, what we do with it, how we embody the moment, it's death. And this week, death reminds us to start our rituals around letting go. This is the time to begin identifying with what is ready to go. And those are two different things. They're both required. They're both important for how we greet the wild hunt in a few months. And it's how we clear the deck to be ready for winter. If there's a takeaway for this runecast, I feel like it is genuinely about honoring the upside downness of social interaction as it shows up in partnership and relationship this week. And that doesn't sound all that fun. It doesn't sound all that great and supportive. But again, I feel like this is less about incredible betrayal or traitorness, and it's more about coming to terms with some internal socialization, some internal how am I really supporting my truth? What does it really need? And how does that impact my sense of belonging? The Galder that we're working with this week is Gebo, 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 Gifu, and Mannaz, Mana. The reversal has no bearing on the Galder, and how we work with it really needs to be based on how we feel the resonance of the sound in our body. So if that's including focusing on proper pronunciations, however you perceive that to be in your cosmology, if you find that's getting in the way of being able to truly feel the runes in your body, then just come back to the sounds that your body wants to make, even if they don't seem like they have anything to do with the Galder proper. It's okay. Just give your body permission to express Gebo. Give your body permission to express Mannaz, however it wants to, and go with it. See what comes up, see what you feel. This is how the Galder came through me this week. Gebo mana, Gebo mana, Gebo mana, Gebo mana, Gebo mana, Gebo mana. They're always different. I don't know how many times I can say that and still be surprised at how differently they embody me. When I spoke this Galder, I felt it come through my chest, literally my heart, and I'm meaning actual heart chakra, not the high heart. And it came out in a 3D way. That's just gruesome, but I don't know how else to describe it. Like if you could envision a flat disc spinning across the axis of the heart chakra, but it was soft and pliable and dark green. And it felt like it was clearing out worry and also leaving the heart open to feel what it needs to feel. So it wasn't filling up with anything as it was clearing out. It was just helping to hold an open space. And I really do feel like that's often the healthiest stance we can take in situations. And it's on point for me, not just with the hurricane and aftermath of that, but some of the personal things that were getting tied up with Mannaz. It's appropriate to feel that stance of openness. And it's really nice to have a support for that, something that I can go to help me do that. I don't have to sit here and talk myself into being open as yucky feelings pass through. Like I can just let the feelings be there, express this Galder, and let that Galder do the opening part for me and just allow myself to experience the opening. I just want to remind everybody that the In the Danger of Death class is coming up on November 3rd. So if you're interested in taking that, this would be a focus on learning death walking, essentially, why we don't have it, why we need it, what life looks like without it, and how our lives are improved by knowing death walking. When we understand what death walking is, that means that we understand how to die in a way that we won't need big trauma help at death. If you have any questions about that, feel free to ping me, and you can find information about it on my website. I would love to hear how the week is going for you, how Gebo is stacking up for you, and thank you for all you do. Thank you for all of your notes and support to me directly over the last week.